ladies and gentlemen. Glad to see there's at least a few of us here left out of the lithium room. But then some still interested in the gold. So at any rate, yes, we're a Saskatchewan-based company. We operate in Saskatchewan, and Mass Gold was formed in 2010 by Ron Nedlitsky. Ron is one of the Hall of Fame miners that is known for his discovery of SK Creek and several other significant deposits, has been very successful in a multitude of other companies, but Mass Gold is his, I think, final hurrah in the world, but you never know. But it is one that he was very akin to and was very interested in setting up and consolidating a gold play in Saskatchewan, and I'll get into that in a little more detail. Bob Matthews is a longtime colleague of his that's followed him around for many years. He's a former senior officer in McMillan Blodell. Rod Spooner is a geologist in La Ronge, Saskatchewan. He lives there and has done a lot of work for Ron over the years, but very active in the company as a director and lives amongst the properties, basically. Steve Goldman is a director from one of our acquisitions that we made last year called Comstock. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Steve's a lawyer from Toronto and one of our excellent directors in addition to the board. And myself, I come from the corp finance world, the M&A world, where I had previously been involved in other mining companies, but also a partner in M&P for a number of years as their director of operations in Saskatchewan and in Alberta. But besides that, I had also been involved in the rare earth world for a number of years. This is our team as we sit today. Our chief geologist, Darren Slugowski, works for Axiom Group, but he is our chief geologist as we're contracted to Axiom. They're a very strong company out of Saskatoon with a lot of young, bright minds and technologies. Karen Frisky, our CFO, has worked with me over the years, past 30 years in various companies, got terrific experience, and that's basically our team in Saskatchewan. Aside from, I did mention Axiom, we have one other consulting group, and it's very important. It's Can North, their environmental consulting group. They're owned by Kitsaki, which is the industrial arm of the La Ronge Band. The La Ronge Band is the First Nations Indian band in Saskatchewan that is where we're operating in their traditional territory. They're a great group, and we also have them in as a partner, which I'll explain a little bit later. I'm not going to talk too much about the gold price. It's hovering around $1,800. Everybody's waiting for it to go to $3,000 or $4,000. Hopefully they're right, but as long as it doesn't go down, I think everybody that's in the gold mining business certainly can operate at that. What the whole market is doing or isn't doing is recognizing the gold market, and now there seem to be interest in a lot of other things. But we're based in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Our properties are in the mid area. Everybody thinks that's northern Saskatchewan. Well, it is kinda, but Saskatchewan goes up a long ways. But Saskatchewan is one of the top jurisdictions in the world in terms of to operate in politically, environmentally, and all of the good things. It ticks the highest box in terms of that. But it's also extremely rich in all other minerals, and that's why it is what it is. The province itself paid back $1 billion of its debt this year alone, which is, I think, the only province that, besides Alberta, that had a significant surplus. And that's going to continue to grow because of the potash, uranium, oil and gas, and the strong agriculture and the newly discovered helium play that's working there. Having said that, this is the properties that we're talking about here that Mass owns, and it's the consolidation play that's in the works. We have, you can see from the arrow there, that's our hub where we plan on having our open pit operation, and the other spokes that are there will be the feedstock to increase the millhead grade as we continue to move forward, and on the southern end of the belt. You'll also note that we control in that whole area at the south. We have another property that's a little bit further north, about 40 kilometers, called Greywacky. It hosts 155,000 ounces of gold. It's got a very high-grade zone in it that could potentially provide cash flow at some point, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes as it relates to the possibility of high-grading that with a very good gravity separation. Again, this gives you a bit of an idea of the properties we have and some of the ones that we've acquired. There still is a couple more that would be really attractive for us. There is a former producing mine a little further north called the Jolu Mill. We're pretty certain that that's going to come on the market within the next year. That would be the only area north that we don't have direct control on. But if, in fact, there was a way that we did, the possibility that Greywacky could be operated, sold, and processed through there is the possibility. But it also could be a spoke for the hub and spoke model on the southern part of the belt, which is what I'm going to talk about. So when I get into the hub and spoke model, this really shows the North Lake is when it's just, I'm going to go back for one quick second here. You see the road that goes up the middle there. That road was put in the 50s and 60s for the development of the uranium in Saskatchewan. And one of the things that Ron wanted to do, he wanted to make sure that you had proper infrastructure. These properties that we have are all within a stone's throw of that. In fact, the power line goes right over our core shack on North Lake, which is where the mill will be. On the east side of the highway, the green area there, that is a provincial park. You can't process there, but you can mine there. And that was where we acquired Contact Lake from, that side, which is about 10 kilometers from our North Lake property, which is located on the west side, which isn't in the park. That's why the plan for the hub and spoke model there, that's where the hub will be and where we would plan it. North Lake hosts about 500,000 ounces, a low-grade open pit, just a little under a gram, great metallurgy. Greywacky North, I mentioned, our average grade there is 4 grams, but we have a high-grade 9-gram zone that hosts about 90,000 ounces. We did a bulk sample there in 2013. It had gravity separation recovery of about 85% and 97 with cyanide. So and it outcrops right at surface. Preview Southwest is the properties that we acquired with Comstock. There was 420,000 ounces we acquired there last year for about $3 million worth of stock. And that added to our resource significantly. And you'll see an updated resource on Preview Southwest within the next week, which hopefully will show us a decent increase. When I started in January 21 with them, our objective for 2021 was to get to 1 million ounces in our resource category. We achieved 1.1. Our target for 2022, when all our resource calculations in, was for 1.4 to 5. We're not going to quite reach that, I don't think, unless something surprises us, but we certainly will be north of 1.3. Some of that will come from Preview Southwest, and some of that will come from the Contact Lake mine that we acquired from the provincial government. Now, the Contact Lake mine was a former producing mine, gold mine, in the 90s that Cameco had. They shut it down mainly because of the price of gold being sub 300. But they were also more interested in doing a deal in Kyrgyzstan with the Kyrgyzstani government, where there was 7 or 8 million that they got to develop, and that became a very significant mine, and it still is today. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go back one more time. If you notice on the right side there, again, you see the CB Santoy deposit. That is now a mine that mine started in '92, and that's the only producing mine in Saskatchewan. I happened to be one of the directors of finance at the time for Claude Resources when we put it in production at '92 at 40,000 ounces a year. To date, it's mined out about 2 million ounces, and it's operating at about 120,000 ounces a year. and still has a resource of a million ounces, and they're down over a mile in some of the place on this. They were down a mile on CB. They now are in the Santoy, and I'm not sure how deep that is, but they continue to operate. That's 40 kilometers from our Greywacke property. It's in a different structure, but at the same time, it shows that the opportunity in the area is really significant. Oh, sorry, I gotta go. So again, back to, I'll move forward here. This gives you a little bit better picture of the hub and spoke model on the north end of the LaRange belt. And that's the area that we totally control. There's other deposits, other showings in the area that we know have some resources in them. We have an internal resource of north of 100,000 ounces that cannot be considered that until we do some more work on it and twin some holes that were previously done. But there's some high-grade deposits as well. Preview Southwest itself has some very high-grade zones. And when Cameco owned Contact Lake, which is 2 kilometers away, their plans were to drift over under the lake to Preview Southwest and mine some of the high-grade areas there as well. So that's when we bought Contact in March. One of the things that we had been doing since then is consolidating all the information to determine what actually is there. But when Cameco had started production in '92, I believe it was, they announced 500,000 ounces. They mined for 3 years, mined out 188,000 ounces, and shut it down. So we're in the throes of working through the information just on the underground workings, drawings, and we hope to have a resource, an inferred resource at least, on that, and somewhere between 100 and 200,000 ounces. And that will round out our target for 2022, although we're a little bit late. It's 2023, I think, last check, but things don't happen always as you plan. We did get delayed a bit, clearly, from our results on our drilling in the spring, where SRC in Saskatchewan had a major glitch in their operations and delayed our results about six months. But part of the reason, so what we're doing right now as we speak is we have updated the North Lake resource. It hosts about 500,000 ounces, and about 70% of that's in the indicated category. That was all moved from inferred. Preview Southwest will be upgraded next week, and we hope to see that somewhere in the 520 to 550 ounces. Contact Lake should be north of 1, so all in all we'll be somewhere between 1.3, 1.4 million ounces in resource, over half of which will be in the indicated category. You can see from Contact Lake there that open area, that was where the mill and the mine is. And I'm going to go forward one more. This is the actual underground workings. They're still there. When Cameco shut it down, they filled the decline in with about 55,000 ton of rock. And so what we have to do in order to get that back into operation as a mine is to open that up, dewater, and we're basically operating. And if you, the top slide is the actual grid for the property. The middle slide is the one with all the drilling, and the third is the underground workings. And if you go right to the bottom of that underground workings, we know there's 260,000 tons of 7-gram material sitting there, based just on the information we have from the people that used to work there, the mine manager and the mine geologist. And the other thing that's important to understand is that this has never been drilled even from underground below the 300-meter level. And there is lots of speculation as to what the blue sky is there. There's been a lot of drilling done outside, as you can see, with some very significant results. And that's some of the things that we have to continue to do to see what really the amount is. But when you start talking about commingling ore from Contact Preview Southwest that's in the 6-7 gram area with the 0.8, 0.9 gram material we have at North Lake, we hope to get somewhere where we can have a millhead grade that could produce somewhere in the 100,000 ounce category. And this is the North Lake ore body that will be the open pit. And you can see the slide on I guess it's my left, which would be all your left as well. We did the yellow drilling is the drilling we did in the winter. We didn't do any step outs with the exception of the one in yellow at the far bottom of the slide. That hit very significant, I believe it was 15 grams of 3 meters. We're not sure it's an extension of the main ore zone, but it's something that we're going to do some more work on at some point in the not too distant future. What the scoping study is going to tell us when it's completed right now, the scoping or the PEA, is that, and that'll be done by the end of April, was supposed to be end of March, it's going to be the end of April because of the delay in our resource calculations, but we expect that to show that what those grades will be and what we need for a mix of ore to get to the proper production levels to reach that. Maybe they'll tell us something different at the end of the day. And when I commissioned the P report, there was 3 things I wanted from that. One, it certainly was our economics on the hub and spoke model. The third was, what does a high grading of the Greywacke look like? And the fourth was a little bit of due diligence in the area around the opportunities that are north of us, which if we got control of that whole belt, that is really a significant situation for us. That particular play then becomes, and it looks like I'm into the yellow zone, that becomes a very significant play. And that's really what it's about. And that whole area has never been drilled to any significant level below 300 meters. So the blue sky is very significant. I will click through quickly here. I've pretty well covered a lot of this off. That's our timelines that are just about a month off only. But some of the other key important thing is our relationship with the L'Orange Band. We did a transaction with them where they invested a small amount of money into the company just to show their sincerity, and they have a right to appoint a director to the board, which they're in the process of doing, as well as they will consult to us on any other acquisitions we do in the area. So that's a very significant point for us in terms of any other acquisitions, in particularly the potential Zhou mill if it becomes available. That's presently owned by the Chinese government through a company called Procon Mining, and we're pretty certain that is going to become available sometime this year. So our relationship with the L'Orange Band is critical. So when you tick off all the boxes in terms of where Mass is at, in terms of on the way to production, or certainly beyond the exploration phase, we tick most of them in a very significant way. So the market has not been kind to us and a lot of gold companies over the last 6-12 months. And we're no different. We're trading at virtually an all-time low, market cap of about $7 million, I think, this morning. We believe we should be trading at about a $20 to $30 value per ounce in the ground, as opposed to 6 or 7. But sooner or later, that market, what that tells you is that the opportunity is there for gold companies to invest in gold companies. And I think Mass is one of the most significant ones. Although I did hear of one yesterday that probably had better, a bigger decline in price with a similar amount of ore in the resource. So it's pretty general though. So picking the right ones right now, I think, is a great opportunity for investment. The other point that I think is fairly strong is that our shareholder base, when we sit down at the boardroom table, over 50% of the company is represented. So that's very significant. Ron Nedlitsky being the significant shareholder, Eros being another one of the sister companies, owns 10%. Comstock owns 14%. And a few other close friends and associates and management also pushes it over 60. So we have to update that. Again, the comparison is hard to use these days in terms of what our value should be per ounce, but that is certainly where it shows the significance and the opportunity. And these four pillars right there are the key ones from my perspective in ticking the boxes as to why we think mass gold is a great opportunity. And I'll end that with saying we are going to be at PDAC. Our booth is 2616. Our geologists are going to be there. So any real tough questions as it comes to the geology, you can say, but you can certainly come around to the booth and we'll answer them for you. I'm not a geologist. I'm a recovering banker, so I have to bow to my geologists when those tough questions. I have got some through osmosis, but that's pretty well it. So having said that, thank you. And